Hi everyone and welcome to a new video on the CBI channel. In this Django for Beginners tutorial series, we're creating a blog-style web application using Python Django. And that will allow users to sign up and also log in, and then to create, edit, and delete different blog posts. Now, this is not the first video in this series. We've already done 16 before, in which we've covered various topics. So if you've not seen it yet, please subscribe. And after 16 videos, we are here, where we have a nice looking homepage with different blog posts and images, and we have the possibility to already sign up. Now in this video, we want to bring it all together and we want to enable login functionality, limit the posts that people can see when they're not logged in, and also change our navigation menu so people can clearly see when they need to sign up and when they are logged in. And to do that, we'll follow 6 steps. First, we're going to be creating a new URL and template for logging in. Then we're going to test this login functionality with the users that we've signed up with in the previous video. If that all goes okay, we are going to change the navbar so that we can see different things on the top when users are logged in or not logged in. Next, we will make sure that the user that is creating the blog post is actually associated with the posts. And we're going to make sure that the My Blog Post page only displays the blog post of the logged in user. And as a last step, we of course want to make sure that only the logged in users have the ability to create, edit, and delete posts, and that people who are not logged in can just view everything. The first thing that we will do is make sure that we have a template and a URL for the login page. So in the last video, we've already created a sign up page, and I'm just going to copy and paste that one and rename it to the login.html file. And in here, we're going to change the title and we're going to say log in. And for the rest, we are going to let it remain the same, but in the button text, we also will change this to login. Now, we will also require a form for this login functionality, so this can remain on this page. And for the rest, it seems to be all okay. So let's save this. Now, usually we would go to the views.py file and create a view to enable the login functionality. However, as I mentioned at the beginning of this series, Django can do a lot of things out of the box without us actually writing code. And logging in is one of these things that Django can handle by simply only specifying the URL and some already pre-built views. So we're going to go to the urls.py file, and in here we want to create a new URL for logging in. So we say path, and in there we do first the URL where we want to find the page. So that is users/login. Then what we want to do is we need to associate a view with this URL. And we're not going to be using a view that we create in the views.py file, but a default view that Django has already created itself. Now, to use that, we first need to import that. So on the top, we do from django.contrib.auth, and we're going to be importing views as auth_views. So now we can use auth views to get the default views from Django to make our lives a little bit easier. So in this views section, we're not going to do views dot a certain view, but we do auth_views, and then we do dot login view, and then dot as_view. Now in here, we need to provide the template that we want to use for this particular view. So we can say that the template underscore name is equal to, and then the template that we've just created, which is the users/login.html. Now, the last thing that we also need to provide here is a comma and then set the name. And that's similar to what we have over here. And that name is going to be equal to login. And let's now save that. So what is actually happening here? Well, we take from Django the default view called login view. And if we go to the Django documentation, you can also see that the login view is here described. And what it states is that it also expects a form. So that's why in the template we also put in still the form called form, because by default it will provide a login form and handle all of the functionality for logging in a user. Now, one thing that we do need to add is the login redirect URL. So after we have logged in, we of course need to go to some kind of a page. So we can say that we by default want to go to the home page or we want to go to some other page. Normally we could put that in our view by doing a return redirect. But of course, in this instance, we don't have a view. So we need to describe that somewhere else. And that place for describing where we want to go after this login view has been successfully done with the form is in the settings.py file. So in our settings.py file, we can add an additional setting, and that setting is going to define where we want to go after we have successfully logged in. So below the installed apps, we are going to create a new variable, and we'll call that login underscore redirect underscore URL. And I'm going to set this as default to a slash, which will make sure that we automatically go to the home page after we have logged in. So I'm going to open a new terminal, and in that terminal we do first venv slash scripts slash activate to activate the virtual environment. And then we do python manage.py run server. And let's see if we can log in with the user that we've created in the previous video. So we are now in our application, and currently we don't have a menu item yet to go to the actual login page, but we can go to slash users slash login. And we indeed now see that a form has been placed here to log the user in. So what we'll do is use the credentials from the previous video. So we'll say that user2 wants to log in and the password is testing321, and let's click on login and see what happens. So we have clicked on login and now we are being redirected to our homepage. So this looks quite good. But of course, we don't actually have any way of telling if this has now successfully worked. But one way that we can tell that is by making some changes in our navbar and also allowing different menu items for when we are logged in and when we are not logged in. So let's see how that works. So we're going to go to the posts section and then to the templates and then to the base.html because that is where our navigation menu is at. Now, one way that we can simply check if we are correctly logged in is we can go to this place where we hardcode that we are signed in as user1. And we can actually change that. We can just say that we are signed in as, and then do 2 times these curly brackets, and then say that we want to have user.username. And this will go into our database and take the username and display that. And we've just logged in with user2, so we would expect to see user2 in the application. And if we now refresh this page, you can see that we're indeed signed in as user2. So it does recognize that we have an active user that is being signed in. Now, by using this user attribute, we can actually evaluate if a user is signed in or not and change the menu that we have on the top to make sure that the user sees different things based on their login status. So we're going to go back to our code and we're going to change a little bit the way that this looks. What we want to do here is the homepage can be visible in any case. So this list item, we will leave that as it is. However, we only want to see the My Blog Post page when a user has authenticated himself. And we also only want to display this user whenever the authentication is successful. So to do that, we put some curly brackets and then some percentage signs. And we say if user dot is underscore authenticated, and this will evaluate it, then we are going to display the My Blog Post page and signed in as, and else we are going to do something different. So we're going to put else here. And then also as the final statement, we do percentage and we do and if. And let's not forget the percentage on the end. So if we are authenticated, we want to say, okay, you're signed in as user this, and you can see your blog post. But if we are not signed in, we want to see the home page and also the sign up page and the login page. Because we want users to either sign up or log in if they're not authenticated. So I'm going to copy over this list item and put it in the else statement. And we say here that this is going to be the sign up button. And that needs to have the href of sign up. And let's quickly check if that is the right one in our urls.py file. Yes, it's called sign up. So then we need to say if request.path is equal to sign up, which actually needs to be users slash sign up. So in here we say if request.path is equal to users slash sign up with also a slash at the beginning, then it can be active. And now we will do the same thing, but then for login. Now let's fix this indentation here, and also here. So we say that the link needs to be login, and we're going to evaluate if we are on the login page by doing users slash login, and then this one is login. And let's save that. Now, when we are authenticated, we also want to have a button that states that the user can log out. So we're going to copy over the list item one more time. And in there, we just put an hashtag because we don't have logout functionality at the moment. And then here we just put logout for now. And let's save that. So in this view, nothing much should really change because if I just do it like this, then we have an additional logout button. But for the rest, we are still signed in. So we see blog posts for user 2. But now I also want to see this page when we are not logged in. Now, of course, we've not enabled our logout functionality yet, so how can I actually log out this user right here? Well, there's actually quite easy. If I go to my DB browser, there is a table called Django underscore session, which is recording all of the active sessions that we have and also setting when they are going to be expired. Now, currently, you don't can really tell a lot about it, but I see that the latest session expiry date is on the 10th of October. So I assume, since this is the latest one, that is the active session that I'm currently working in. So if I would just delete this session and I would write these changes, that would mean that my current session is no longer active and that there would be no one logged in. So if we now go back here and I refresh this page, you notice that we are no longer logged in because our session is gone. And that's the way that you can do it yourself. So now you also notice that we have the sign up and the login functionality whenever we are not logged in. And when once we log in, we actually get to the navbar where we do see those options. So if we now click sign up, we are getting to the sign up page, but we have already done that. And if I now go to login, we're getting to the login page. So if I do user 2 and then testing 3 to 1, we can log in. And you now notice that we have the links again that we would like to see there. And also inside of our SQLite database, when I now refresh this, you notice a new session is added again. And you can then log out by just deleting this session again and then continuing. So that is how that works. So now that we have users and we have the ability to make sure that the users can log in, I want to make sure that each of the blog posts gets a user assigned, and also that on the My Blog Post page, the user will only see their own blog post so that they cannot edit or delete blog posts from other people. So to do that, we need to go back to our code and we're going to go to the models.py file and then to the blog post model. First thing we need to do there on the top is import the user model. So we do from django.contrib.auth.models and we import user because that's where our users live. Then we're going to go to our blog post model and we are going to add another field on the bottom here where we say created by, which is equal to models.foreign key. So similar to what we did before. And there we say user. And then we say on delete models.cascade. So whenever a user is deleted, also all their posts will be deleted. And let's save this. And now we of course need to do the migrations here. So we do Python manage.py make migrations. And in here, it will ask us to do two things because we currently already have blog posts that don't have a user assigned to it. So what we can do is we can provide a default value or we can quit and manually define a default value. Now, what I would like to do is I want to put all of the current blog posts that we have on the user of user 2. And user 2 has an ID of 2. You can see that right here. So what I will do is I'm going to put option 1 because I want to provide a one-off value. And the value is going to be equal to 2. And now it will allow us to migrate this. So we do Python manage.py migrate. And it's now all okay. And if we go to our blog post model and we refresh this, you notice that we will now have a new created by field and the ID is always equal to 2. So that now seems to work fine, but I also want to add the name of the user on the home page next to the blog post so we can see who has created what. So we're gonna go to the part where we have the mid dot here, where we are putting the category of the blog post. And below the category of the blog post, we are gonna do in the same article details thing and mid dot again. And let's just copy over this div that states that we have the mid dot like this. And there we are gonna set the word by. And then we do 2 times these curly brackets and we want to put in the username of the person that created it. So we do blog dot created by dot username. And this will make sure that it takes the created by field that we have in our blog post model. And then it goes to the user model and it takes the username. So it should display the user too. So let's now save this and start our server again by doing Python manage.py run server. And now you notice that we indeed also have by and then user 2. So it shows who has created this blog post. Now the by user 2 can be a little bit more to the right. So if we go back here, you notice that we have a specific p tag for article category. And we're just going to borrow that and put that also inside of the by. So we just do article category and then put the by inside of the article category so that we have the same styling applied as there. And if we now refresh this, you also notice that the user becomes blue and that we have it in the same styling as the category. So for me, this seems to be working fine. Okay, so we now know which user has created which blog post. But on the My Blog Post page, I only want the users to have their own blog post shown. So how do we do that? Well, first of all, on the top, we need to change this to the actual name of the user. So we're going to go to the blogpost.html file. And on the top, we say blog post of, and then 2 times the curly brackets, and then we do user dot username. Let's save that. And now it shows the correct user on the top. Now we want to restrict the posts that are visible to only the user that is signed in. And we can really easily do that in our views.py file. So we're gonna go to the blog post page. And in here, we do not blog.objects at all, but we're going to filter it to only have the blog posts where the created underscore by, which is the column that stores the user ID, is equal to the request dot user. And this will make sure that whatever user is making the request to see the blog posts is evaluated that it only shows the blog post where he is the created one. So that should only display the post of user 2 for user 2 that is logged in. Now, of course, currently all of the blog posts are on user 2. So if I refresh this, nothing will happen because all of the posts are assigned to user 2. So we can go back to our sessions in this Django session thing and refresh this. And we're going to delete this session for now. So we are logged out. And let's write those changes. So now we are on the homepage and we are logged out. So there's no user assigned. And we're going to log in with our other user, which is the user 1. So now we are logged in with user 1. And we see user 2 on all of these blog posts. And if I go to my blog post, you notice that there are no blog posts yet because user 1 doesn't create any blog posts. So this seems to be working fine, where users can only see their own posts on this page. Now, the issue that we still have is that if we are not logged in, so let's say that I again would get rid of my active session and I write those changes, which means if I go back here, I'm not logged in, I potentially can, even if I don't have the button on the top, can still create a blog post. Because if I would be really creative and I can go to the slash create page, nothing is stopping me to access that. So I would go to slash create and I would still be able to see this even though I'm not logged in. And even further, if I would do edit and then let's say blog post 6, you notice that I would still be able to edit a certain blog post even if I'm not logged in. And that is not what we want. So we need to add something in our application that checks if someone is authenticated and based on that determines if you can edit or delete the blog post. Now, first thing what we can do is we can go to the edit and the delete page and we can say that we can only edit a blog post where the user has also created it because we don't want other users to edit blog posts from other people. Now that's very easy because we can just on the place where we find the blog extend this by saying that we want to have created by equal to the requested user. And that will make sure that if you make a request to edit something, but you're not the one that has created it, it will automatically throw an error. And we can do the same thing for delete, where we want the user to be the same user that has created it. And let's save this. So now I can log in with user one and I can go to slash delete slash 6, which is a blog post. If we go to the blog post model that is created by user 2. So if I now go to this page, you notice that this query does not exist. The user is not the one who created it, so it throws us an error. So this part is now solved, but we still have the issue where someone who's not logged in can go to all of these different pages. And to make sure that that is not possible, we can simply add something on top of the views where only the people that are logged in should be the ones that are able to see the page. To do that, we first need to do an import. So we can say from Django.contrib.auth.decorators and we'll import login required. So now that we have this login required imported, we can put this on top of all of the functions where we don't want people who are not logged in to have access. So for example, on the My Blog Post page, which is associated with the blog post, we can put add login required. And we can do exactly the same for our create page, for our edit page, and our delete page. Because only people who are logged in should have the possibility to actually see that. Now, the details page is still okay because everyone can read our blog post. And also on the homepage, we want everyone to see it. If we do it like this, we should be fine. So now we're still logged in. So we're going to go back to our sessions again so I can log out. So let's delete this one and write the changes. So now we are logged out. So we should not be able to go to the create page. And you notice indeed that whenever I go to the create page, it automatically forwards me to accounts/login. And the reason is that that is what Django does by default. And you can also see that in the documentation because the login view by default goes to accounts/profile. Now, to make sure that we actually go to the login page whenever that is being done, we can change the setting called login URL because by default it is accounts/login. However, if you want the login required to use it correctly, you need to change this to where your login page is. That means that in our project, we can go to blog and then to the settings.py file. And in there, we can say that our login underscore URL is equal to users slash login. So now when we go back and we are not logged in, but we want to access a page where we need that credential, then we do slash create because we should not be able to go there. And you notice that it automatically redirects us to the page to log in. So we are now no longer able to go on pages that are prohibited for us. So this now works fine because it's going to prompt us to log in and that will make sure that if you're not logged in, you cannot go to the pages where you want to be. Now, the last thing that we still need to counter is that error whenever a user tries to edit a post that is not his. So I've just logged in with user one, and if I would like to go to edit/6, I now get this error message. And this error message actually also exposes a lot of information that we might not want the user to see. We need to add some functionality that if the user did not create the blog post, he needs to be redirected to the homepage again. So we're going to go to the views.py file, and we're going to go to the edit functionality. So first thing we do is we evaluate here if the blog post is actually from the user. And we actually don't want to do that here. We want to fetch the blog post, and then we want to do an evaluation. We want to say if request.user does not equal the blog.created_by, then we want to redirect the user. So we want to return redirect and then go to the homepage. And let's save that. And if the user is actually the one that has also created the blog post, then we can show the form and do all different kinds of functionality there. So now let's test what happens. So I'm logged in with user one, and I want to go to the edit page of user two. And you now notice that we're straight away redirected to the homepage. And also now if I do edit/6, it doesn't work. It goes straight away to the homepage. So this seems to be working fine. And that means that we can also do this for the delete page. So for the delete page, we also remove this created by requested user. And we simply evaluate that if the user that created this is not the user that makes the request, then we will just redirect. So now if I would want to go to delete/6 for user one for the post of user two, we would go back to the homepage and nothing will have happened. And that is actually all for this video. In this video, I showed you how you can log in a user and how you can only show logged in users certain pages and make sure that there's no malicious activity by other users trying to access data that is not theirs. In the next video, we will continue and I'm going to show you how we can log out. I will also focus on password resets. I want to thank you very much for watching this video. If you've enjoyed it, please leave a like and subscribe and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye bye.